Goddess Saraswati bestowing us with confidence towards the accomplishment of our goals. And at this auspicious moment, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome our esteemed guests for sparing time and gracing this occasion with a bouquet presentation, expressing our heartfelt gratitude to them. I would request Shri A.K. Dikshit to welcome our Honourable Chief Guest, Shri Manish Tiwari, with a bouquet for gracing this occasion in spite of his very busy schedule. Thank you so much, sir. I request Shri Yuvraj Bajaj, Vice President, BES, to present a bouquet to Shri Bimal Julka. And I request Shri Ashish Bhatnagar, Vice President, BES, to present a bouquet to Shri Jawahar Sarkar, CEO, Prasar Bharati. And I request Shri P.K. Singh to present a bouquet to Mr. Byrne Fotheringham. Thank you so much, sir. Pride, honor, and glory are just some of the many emotions we all are experiencing at the special moment of the inauguration ceremony. We now request our Honourable Chief Guest, Shri Manish Tiwari ji, for the lamp lighting ceremony, thereby inaugurating the BES EXPO 2014. We request all the dignitaries to kindly join in for the lamp lighting ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, this lamp is a symbol of prosperity, goodwill and success, ushering in a new era, welcoming the challenges, taking broadcasting on a high level from here on. Heartiest congratulations to each one of you at this very gracious and special moment, the inauguration of the BES Expo 2014. Thank you so much, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the BES, with a humble beginning in the year 1987 to promote the advancement and dissemination of knowledge and broadcasting, joining hands with other learned bodies in India and around the world today, has stepped in its 20th year of exhibition and conference, breaking new grounds in innovation and incorporating the latest trends in broadcast. On this moment, I request Shri A.K. Dikshit for the welcome address. Please welcome Shri A.K. Dikshit.
Honorable Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Shri Manish Tiwari ji, Secretary, Ministry of I&B, Shri Bimal Julka ji, Chief Executive Officer, Prasar Bharati, Shri Jawahar Sarkar ji, and today's keynote speaker, Mr. Byrne Fotheringham, Chairman, Kaimata Corporation, senior officers from Ministry of I&B, Prasar Bharati, ABU, distinguished guests, exhibitors, broadcasters, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. Today happens to be an auspicious day in India. I convey my best wishes for happy Makar Sankranti, Pongal, Eid-e-Milad and Lohri. It gives me immense pleasure and great sense of pride to welcome you all to this premier international broadcast event, 20th International Conference and Exhibition on Terrestrial and Satellite Broadcasting, organized by Broadcast Engineering Society India. Honorable Minister Sir, I warmly welcome you to this inaugural ceremony. Your presence here is a great source of inspiration for the entire broadcasting fraternity assembled here, and is indeed taking up this event to greater heights. I express a very cordial welcome to the respected Secretary, Ministry of I&B, Shri Bimal Julka ji. Sir, your words of motivation and constantly encouraging advice instill a tremendous sense of confidence among the broadcast professionals. CEO Prasar Bharati, Shri Jawahar Sarkar ji, has always been a mentor and a true guide to most of us in the present age of technological transitions in broadcasting. His kind guidance would help us in resolving many hurdles in future and accelerate the progressive pace of technological advancement in AIR and Doordarshan. I welcome you, sir, on this inaugural ceremony. On behalf of Broadcasting Engineering Society, I would like to welcome today's keynote speaker, Mr. Warren Fotheringham, CEO, Kaimata Corporation. We are very happy to have such a distinguished speaker amongst us, and I am sure that his in-depth deliberation would enlighten all of us. Broadcasting Engineering Society came into existence in 1987. It was launched by a small group of broadcast engineers with an objective to promote advancement, dissemination of knowledge and practices in the field of broadcasting. Since then, it has grown multifold to the extent that besides having its headquarters at New Delhi, it has 12 local chapters spread all over the country. Now the society has more than 2,500 live fellow members, and 37 leading organizations in the country are its corporate members. Society conducts regular conferences, seminars, tutorials and exhibitions to fulfill its primary objective. Society also promotes technical innovation and excellence by conferring prestigious BES awards to the individuals for their outstanding contribution in the field of broadcast engineering every year. The annual BES EXPO is an international conference and exhibition on the latest trends in broadcasting. Is truly a signature event of this society. This event is encouraged by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India, and supported by Prasar Bharati, Ministry of Communication and IT, Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union, Society of Broadcast Engineers of U.S.A, International Association of Broadcast Manufacturers, and DRM. Every year, BES EXPO has a unique broadcast-related theme to invoke a collective thought process on concurrent issues and innovations. Likewise, this year too, BES EXPO sails on the most relevant theme of the present times, the future media ecosystem, opportunities and challenges for broadcasters. The media ecosystem has evolved through centuries, from storytelling to the present-day mass media. Media ecosystem is quite analogous to the organic ecosystem, where despite all inter-race rivalries, natural balance is maintained and there is no threat to their mutual existence. TV did not wipe out radio or cinema. Tablets and e-books have not ended the days of printed books. Instead, in media ecosystem, different organs compete for their share of society's attention in terms of circulation or viewership, image, revenue and TRP ratings. Media ecosystem has various stakeholders comprising content creators, broadcasters, distributors, application developers, manufacturers, regulators, and of course the end users. Each one of them has its own unique opportunities and challenges. Public service broadcaster has the responsibility of broadcasting content to cover the entire strata of society and to take care of the cultural needs of all wings of the population. The challenge is to keep the viewers hooked on to their channels amid fierce commercial broadcasting, getting adequate public funds to adopt new technology and modernize the infrastructure. Digitalization of television and radio networks and emergence of new media devices have redefined the broadcast landscape. Digital terrestrial TV transmission has immense potential and can provide multi-channel terrestrial bouquet to the consumers, that too at free of cost. It can provide both mobile and fixed reception. A comprehensive bouquet of HD TV, SD TV and mobile TV channels can invoke good acceptance from the masses. Over-the-top services, digital cable and DTH are presently competing with each other to occupy more space in broadcasting industry for distribution of content. These platforms have their own USPs. However, they have their own limitations. While mobility is not possible in cable and DTH, the requirement of high-speed broadband and cost of data consumed is still a limiting factor for the OTT. Another competing element in the broadcast media ecosystem of late has been the entry of telecom operators. The demand for spectrum by telecom service providers to roll out 4G, LTE and wireless video streaming solutions have put a lot of pressure on the broadcasters. Though we deliberate and attach a lot of importance to the technologies, what actually matters is the content that these media promise to offer to various sections of the society. The content is the king, which alone can make a media successful or a failure. This needs to be suitably designed to meet the specific requirement of the platform. The broadcast equipment manufacturers too are major players in the media ecosystem, as they have to cater to the ever-increasing needs of the various platforms. They must also ensure that the economy of the scale is transferred to the masses by providing the receiving devices at affordable prices. In the complex media ecosystem, the regulating authorities also have a big challenge ahead, like regulating the limited available spectrum, content regulation, licensing issues, digitalization of cable TV, including implementation of Cable TV Act. The emerging ecosystem is complex, diverse, richer, and highly interactive. To sustain the business, it requires certainly out-of-box thinking and quick adaptability to the new standards, expectations, and way of life. In the end, I am very confident and optimistic that the deliberation in various tutorials and conference sessions spread over 3 days will be very fruitful, thought-provoking, and pave the way to address the various issues and challenges in the respective fields, while simultaneously cashing upon the opportunities. This will also enable the great Indian broadcast industry to gear up for the future. Once again, I welcome you all to this BES Expo 2014. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the essence and the achievement of BES over the past few years. Ladies and gentlemen, whether it is the airwaves in India or the airwaves around the world, they all speak a common language of peace, brotherhood, and unity, breaking all the barriers of indifference and hatred and bringing us together as one big global family. We now take this opportunity to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Mr. Vern Fotheringham, Chairman, Kymeta Corporation, Redmond, USA. Mr. Vern has been a serial entrepreneur in broadband, wireless, and satellite communications industry for more than 25 years. He has created and built numerous successful ventures for major service providers, system vendors, solution software suppliers. He has also pioneered the wireless broadband industry as founder of both Advanced Radio Telecom Corporation and Wavetrace. Mr. Vern has traveled widely, sharing his expertise. Today with us, he is going to give us an overview of the world broadcast scenario. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Vern Fotheringham.
Thank you for the kind introduction. It's an honor to be here and to have been asked to address you today, the leaders of the broadcast industry in India, and speak to some of the most important near-term collisions between the rapidly evolving technology and the inevitable slower-moving pace of public policy, and how these inevitable tensions that often emerge between these two important domains may impact the future of the Indian economy and hopefully for the better. I want to say right up front that I deeply respect both the unique challenges and the enormous opportunities that exist for the future of broadcasting in India. I've dedicated a significant portion of my life to working closely with entrepreneurs and pioneers in India who have long convinced me of the incredible potential and resources that exist uniquely in India among all of the world's nations. India is a young and well-educated nation with a deep reservoir of technical and IT talent. The future of the broadcasting industry has never been more promising or more fraught with peril than at any time in our illustrious history of serving the needs of the public. The opportunities exist as we bring the unique benefits of broadcasting digital information to the public, regardless of whether it is audio, video, or digital information of any kind. On the negative side, we face the risk of new competitors from outside broadcasting who are encroaching on our traditional franchises. These new competitors have all emerged out of the digital and wireless revolution that has exploded globally over the past decade. I would like to reference, there were some slides that were going to come up somewhere. Do I have the control of that? Do you have the data loaded? Okay. So while we're waiting on that, I'll address today 5 primary themes I think that are inevitable for us to take into consideration. And the first is that convergence is encroaching and overtaking us on all fronts. Traditional bundles, the voice, the data, the video worlds that have emerged over the years as discrete franchises are now basically under a confusing and often blurring of the lines between them. The telephone companies want to get into the video and broadcasting industry, the cable operators are getting into the voice telephone industry, and it goes on and on. What's happened in the new digital world is the boundaries are blurring and are simply being erased. And the ultimate new reality that we're facing is the whole concept that the public wants to take their communications and their data on any device, at any place, at any time of their pleasure. In addition, the internet has changed everything, but there is still no efficient multicast or broadcast extension to the internet. Today it is still our one-to-one medium. Every individual person who downloads a video content or other file off the internet is doing so in a unicast session. And as we've looked around the world at the distribution of that content, the vast majority of downloads are being generated by a very few number of titles. That is a broadcast paradise. 90% of the downloads being generated by less than 10% of the titles is an opportunity for broadcasting to assert its unique competency of the efficiency of our one-to-many networks to take a rightful place and add a broadcast extension to that global internet. And the last one is the whole idea of interactivity and the upstream or request opportunity for the users to select video on demand and other types and kinds of services that may be needed discreetly, whether those are being downloaded in a linear fashion, whether they're being pre-positioned at the very edge of the network, or whether they're coming in a live streaming environment. So to put the global state of the broadcast technology evolution into perspective, we should examine our sister wireless organizations in the cellular telephone industry. Over the past 30 years of wireless telephone deployments, the operators have plowed through the initial analog to digital conversion and subsequently multiple generations of digital evolution, from TDMA Generation 1 digital and 2 to CDMA-based Generation 3, and lately to the OFDMA-based Generations 4. At each stage along the way, the user handsets have been replaced over and over again, until today we have in excess of 6 billion cellular phones in use around the world, and over 1.1 billion of those are what we call mobile broadband or smartphones. And the pace of the growth of those continues to increase as they reduce in price and increase in performance. So meanwhile, over in our world of broadcasting, we're still struggling to get out of the starting blocks from the analog era into our initial participation in the digital era. Ironically, our industry has been constrained due to our own legacy of success. While we have been meeting all of our original charters with consistent success, our failure to self-destruct and continuously reconstruct our broadcast infrastructure has now left us exposed to rapid obsolescence and ultimately irrelevancy as our sister wireless industries continue to forge ahead with their transformation from being providers of simple wireless voice telephone services to fully integrated mobile broadband IP access providers to the internet. It is only a short remaining step for them to encroach directly on our broadcasting franchises. Under the Global Cellular Standards Organization, 3GPP, we now have the final release of the protocol for Multimedia Broadcast Multicast Service, MBMS. Quoting directly from the 3GPP standard, MBMS is a point-to-multipoint service in which data is transmitted from a single source entity to multiple recipients. Transmitting the same data to multiple recipients allows network resources to be shared. Sound familiar? The MBMS bearer service offers 2 modes, broadcast mode and multicast mode. So it is a louder wake-up call to the broadcasters to begin actively working to protect our traditional franchises as broadcasters. The future has arrived and competition is upon us. And how we respond must be a positive offensive to bring new services forward, not just a rearguard defensive posture to delay the inevitable. Worldwide, TV and radio broadcasting regulators and operators have relied on a number of what by now have proven to be somewhat flawed assumptions about our mission as contrasted to our opportunities and ultimately our broader role in society. First is the illusion of standards as being essential to our success. We in the broadcast industry have labored under the belief that we cannot obsolete our installed base of consumer television receivers. The proof that this assumption is not correct has been proven by the success of the cellular industry to jettison multiple generations of standards while we stood still and enjoyed what seemed at the time as robust revenues from our legacy infrastructure. In the U.S., we finally managed to accomplish the conversion of our full-power, free-to-air analog broadcast television infrastructure just 4 years ago on June 12, 2009, after 10 years of delay. When the transition was finally made, the U.S. deployed the U.S.-centric protectionist standard adopted by our Advanced Television Standards Committee, ATSC, that uses 8 vestigial sidebands, a single-carrier technology. Unfortunately, this technology was obsolete before it was even installed, as the rest of the world embraced the far more capable OFDM-based solutions such as you have done here in India. The U.S. broadcast industry has paid a terrible price for this mistake, but is now moving rapidly to correct the situation by the actions embraced by the ATSC to actively participate in the creation of ATSC 3.0 and participate in the future of broadcast TV worldwide global initiative. The second flawed assumption has been our industry's widespread avoidance of the fact that the public is moving away from their consumption of video in their living rooms and the tradition of appointment viewing of linear television programming. The computer revolution, following the steady march of Moore's law from personal computers to highly powered handheld mobile devices, is driving the public's demand for video content consumption on these new generations of display devices. Video consumption and consumer demand is now happening over screens of all types, regardless of location. Consumers want what they want, wherever they are, and whenever they want it. And the third has been our reliance on our unique and regulatory protected role as the first line of emergency notification to the public, and the direct line of communications between government and civil society. As new technologies emerge to achieve these missions more efficiently and more cost-effectively, our industry can no longer rely on the belief that we are somehow indispensable to the public interest. Remaining relevant to the daily lives of the public is essential for our long-term survival. In pursuit of that objective, we have an opportunity to assert some truly powerful and sustainable advantages over our cellular phone friends on the other side of the argument. Terrestrial television holds the promise of being far and away the most efficient and least costly means of delivering the next generation of broadband content to all types of mobile, portable, and fixed display or storage devices. Mobile IP devices will inevitably constitute the major market for the future of broadcasting. Making sure broadcasting as an industry survives and asserts its best and highest potential in achieving this future position has been the focus of my career for the better part of the last decade. One of the most exciting developments in the field of broadcasting is the combination of broadcast efficiencies married to the rapidly decreasing cost of digital storage. The ability to cost-effectively implement high-capacity storage at the consumer edge of the broadcast network is going to drive much of the future relevancy of the broadcast medium. As we add higher and higher resolution video displays and the ability to pre-position popular content at the consumer edge of the network becomes increasingly attractive and an important addition to the traditional suite of broadcast services. The other area of dramatic change exists in the domain of video encoding. Initial digital TV standards and MPEG-2 video coding and recent high-definition TV, HDTV systems are using MPEG-4 to achieve almost twice the capacity in a given amount of bandwidth. However, the progress continues. HDTV is transforming itself quickly into Ultra HDTV, and we're seeing a dramatic increase in the requirement for bandwidth positioned on our networks. This slide, just to give some quick background, shows that declining cost in how much storage has reduced in price over just the recent decades. And we have seen nothing decline faster in cost than storage. Marrying that to our broadcast capabilities and the future demand for these ultra high definition video displays, enables us to pre-position a lot of the future content that would overwhelm our traditional digital broadcast networks by feeding that content in at whatever greater or less than viewing speed that the consumer can consume it, and not treat it as linear, but create it as pre-positioned content. There's a tremendous potential to combine these two trends into a new service delivery broadcast platform that will enable these extremely high data density content in 4K and HK to be pre-positioned at the consumer edge for quick as you can click recovery and playback on demand by users over local storage. The transition from analog to digital broadcasting is happening at a snail's pace worldwide. Even so, there are lessons to be learned from the challenges faced and experience earned by other nations who have made the digital transition. The Europeans led the global digital TV conversion beginning in the Netherlands in 2006, which lagged the cellular industry by 16 years. Broadcasters' slow transition to digital has hurt our ability to compete effectively with the cellular players, and also curtailed the creation of new services and new business models beyond advertising supported free-to-air or government-subsidized linear TV services. The digital transition has come with some significant pain. In the U.S.A., at the time of the transition, the U.S. government spent over $1 billion subsidizing an analog to digital set-top box converter coupon program to avoid obsoleting legacy analog TV sets. It was a noble goal. An industry happened to show one small problem, which was when the government specified the boxes, they failed to realize that there were 5,000 low-power TV stations that had not been required to participate in the digital transition, and by not including an analog pass-through in those converter boxes, they had to be recalled and new ones created, where the law of unintended consequences of a very well-intentioned program was challenged by simply not having the technical expertise on the policy side that was leading into the world of the reality that they face. So so we still see in the press releases the government felt they did a great job, and we saw the industry had to actually sue to get the government to put analog pass-through in those boxes. It was a mess. In India, the satellite DTH operators are the primary sources for universal digital television services. Unfortunately, these services are only able to provide a service to large parabolic antennas and are simply not capable of delivering video to low-cost mobile or portable consumer devices. Thus, the sooner that the terrestrial digital television transition can be completed, the better the chances that the broadcast industry in India will be able to evolve to maintain its rightful place in the market and extend its service reach to receiver platforms of all types. Over the past several decades, the industrial policies of the major manufacturing nations have used the regulatory standards process for consumer electronics products to drive local manufacturing and enhance their domestic economies. This was originally true in Europe, the United States, and Japan, and lately the Chinese government has been pursuing similar policies to advance their own domestic consumer consumption of proprietary standards-based products. It's my premise that these approaches will prove to be obsolete, and there's been a lot of work and study put into the assessment of which of the existing regional standards would be the best fit for India, and it has been determined by Doordarshan that DVB-T2 and the emerging DVB-T2 Lite for mobile will be the appropriate fit for India, and I certainly endorse that decision. It's a fantastic and high-quality standard and really does lead the world today. The other nations around the world have also chosen various forms of COFDM, not including the U.S., I might add, but we're getting there. But what's interesting is the Japanese standard, ISDVB-T, and some of the other regional standards are all proving to be coded orthogonal frequency division multiplexing based. So what this actually means is that we're finding almost universal convergence on a prototype standard for the future that will be quite similar, and more importantly, very similar to the OFDMA technology that's been embraced by the 4G cellular world. So we are not losing our opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with the folks who would love to come in and knock us off. I think it is essential to point out that the traditional reliance on a specific standard or protocol embedded in hardware is also rapidly becoming a relic of the last century. We now enjoy an environment where the concept of hardware is rapidly evolving to embrace what is called software-defined hardware. The ever-increasing power of digital computing has made it a practical reality to build generic hardware that is then dynamically programmed via software to function on whatever protocol or radio frequency technology that is most appropriate for a specific application or jurisdiction. The inevitable benefit of this change in the core technologies essential to our industry is that we can now rapidly and at relatively low cost continuously transform our broadcast infrastructure to meet challenging technical standards and emerging new applications and services that will keep us relevant and competitive in the 21st century. One of the things that's happening worldwide is the future of broadcast TV. I think India, who is not, to my knowledge, represented deeply in this process, should take its rightful place as a participating member in this development of new global standards. One of the things that will come out of that is the ability to add this unicast complement, a multicast server, to the broadcast arsenal of services and products. And I think this idea of IP multicasting, to make a quick analogy, if you think of all the receivers as a sea of buckets, in the traditional unicast internet, we fill those buckets up one by one by one with a garden hose. We, the broadcasters, own that fire hose that can fill all the buckets at the same time, and then specific information desired by an individual user can be selected by rejection of information that's not appropriate to be received there, and conditional access and digital rights management policies applied to the individual devices that are there to receive it. So adding an IP multicast layer to the arsenal of broadcast products, I think you'll find will add tremendous value to our future ability to earn a rightful place and maintain our presence in the marketplace in the face of continuing and growing encroachments on our spectrum by the cellular operators and on our markets as people move to embrace our business models with new solutions. Thank you very much.
Bring out the best in broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, he echoes the roar of a lion, beg your pardon. Like a general, he leads his army of one and all, charging ahead, ready to stake the claim to be the best. Until he achieves it, he wouldn't rest. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, a visionary and illuminating personality shouldering the responsibility of being the CEO of Public Service Broadcasting Network of India, Prasar Bharati. Prasar Bharati, one of the largest public service broadcasting of the world with the All India Radio and the Doordarshan. Sri Jawahar Sarkar joined the coveted Indian Administrative Service in the year 1975. And ever since then, there has been no looking back. From holding key positions in the various government organizations, making difference, effective difference, any and everywhere he's been, from the field of art, culture, to science, to history, his contributions speak for themselves, steering the Prasar Bharati towards new heights with the revival of its glorious days once again. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sri Jawahar Sarkar.
Honorable Minister, Mr. Manish Tiwari, Honorable Secretary, Information and Broadcasting, Mr. Fotheringham, Mr. Dixit, my colleagues. I think this is the second occasion, but either I have become a little wiser or I am more confused. I would seek your indulgence to get out of what I call a fog. Now let me begin by wishing you all the very best for Makar Sankranti. It's a very holy day for us, and for Miladul Nabi. This particular day is more auspicious than any other on which you have organized your BES, and it has a meaning. I would start by thanking the Honorable Minister for making the time, because this is a period where his constituents would like him to share Lori, Makar Sankranti, but he has chosen to stay back with us. At a very, I don't know whether I should be saying all this, but tact has never been my weakness. I have now stepped into my 39th year, or about halfway through my 39th year in what is normally called public service. I have rarely seen a brighter and a more articulate minister than Mr. Manish Tiwari. His capacity to absorb is fascinating. All my pride about little achievements in absorption pale when I compare this gentleman, and I'm telling you today he will go very far. You can take it from me. He will go very far. As the constitutional head of our family, he has guided us under tremendous pressure. He has more tasks than I've seen for any INB minister in my history. My only request is that if he could spare a little more time, we keep nagging, we'll be able to get across our views. Because, as the Prime Minister put it a few days ago, 5 months is a long time. They say 1 week is a long time in politics, and all I need is just a couple of weeks to get things moving with greater speed, because he has this energy to drive things. Having said that, I would now commend Mr. Bimal Julka, whom I have known for a long time. He has this rare quality of peace, which has never visited me. He has the capacity again to absorb and a very wide experience. A secretary needs to have a vision like an umbrella to absorb all contradictory viewpoints and move forward. I am sure he will lead the task. Coming to the BES and to our engineering colleagues, let me tell you again with the crankiness or the antiquity of one who has spent almost 4 decades, that I have never seen a more upright and genial engineering service in my entire service career. There is an uprightness about our engineers. There is a particular amount of geniality, there is a particular amount of forthrightness which strikes you, and you can have faith in them. The little problem is that in 20 years there has not been a single drop of new blood. So there is a bit of dating. And you know it, I know it. We hope that the Minister and Secretary have taken attempts to put in 3,500 people that the group of ministers decided 5 years ago. And I'm sure within the next 2 weeks, 2 months, if something can move, we'll get the first batch of 1,000 bright young engineers who will create a little disturbance. Disturbance is sometimes helpful in moving forward, but would be able to bring in a new dimension to our engineering service. Even the senior people ask for them, and I'm sure the juniors will be raring to go. Having said that, we often describe ourselves every time we meet that we are at the crossroads. I put it, now we are at a point of tumult. Crossroad is when you can take a left, right, forward, backward, and then proceed to the next crossroad. My personal view is that when India chose the satellite mode in the late 90s and early 2000, perhaps we should have also moved on completely to satellite mode. The logic of having terrestrial, which is very expensive, very cumbersome, requires a lot of manpower, which I can't explain to people, lot of power, a lot of other infrastructure, was that it is free to air. Mr. Pandit, our member of finance, and I were doing some calculations. We found that for every expansion of terrestrial at current costs and the number of consumers that we need to cover, number of viewers we need to cover within that circle, we could jolly well give them free set-top boxes at lesser cost. These costings, such wisdom come retrospectively. I mean, come once you have crossed the barrier, but let us not shy away from the fact that we could have, whoever was, it's not a personal responsibility, we could have perhaps gone on higher emphasis on the satellite mode at that point of time. Now let us see what we can do now. Ladies and gentlemen, I just focus on three small issues and leave it to the wisdom of the House to take a call. My first doubts that I expressed is about digital radio mondial. There is no doubt that it is the most superior technology where digital radio is concerned. I have no doubt about it. Nobody in this room has any doubt about it. The point is, have we jumped the gun? Have we jumped the gun? That's the point. Because if DRM receiver sets are available for any consumer price of a few hundred rupees, no Indian pays more than a few hundred rupees except for a radio set. Or if DRM were available on the 900 million mobiles that we possess, it would make a lot of difference. But DRM is wedded to medium wave. And medium wave, believe me, medium wave set production has crashed. Medium wave sets are crashing. Any person who thinks to the contrary can just go to the shops and ask. If that is so, why are we going on medium wave when medium wave is being received only as a legacy? Our choice is to go into the mobile. Of the 950 million mobiles that we talk about, I think about 750 to 800 are activated at any point of time. And most of them are capable of receiving radio signals provided they are on frequency modulation. So our target has to be to get on to the FM wave and to break this syndrome of 55 million radio receivers to a straight jump of 6 times to 8 times in no time. All our radio stations have a mandatory medium wave AM tower. We need to put a parallel FM tower in every radio station. It's only then, now my argument is that tower covers 200 kilometers and FM will cover only 70 kilometers. My answer is that 70 kilometers is 80% of the population. Do that first, we'll talk about the next thing later. Having said that, my submission is that the board of Prasar Bharati has finally taken a call and has said we have put in more investment in DRM than perhaps any other nation in the world. It's time for the DRM receiver sets to find their way into the market. We shall help the process. We have just about to set up what we call a consumer support wing within the engineering. Until the receivers are in the market, we will concentrate all our energies and all our funding on parallel FM. Every primary station of India should have, and we are trying to desperately get funds for it, should have its parallel FM tower. If there is a Doordarshan LPT or an HPT next door, we have to put it there. I can't ever understand this psychology of trying to build up an own tower on an own acquired land and take anywhere between 5 to 15 years to complete. This tower-based obsession is something that we need to seriously think. Now, then when we're talking of towers, we are fully aware that digitization of terrestrial is an absolute necessity, that each one of our channels needs to be replaced as of yesterday with 8 to 9 through the digital mode. The question is, where has DBB T2 succeeded first in streaming? I am referring to DBB T2 Lite. Let DBB T2 Lite be available at the lab level. I'm not even talking the land level. Let it be at the lab level, we'll be ready at the land level. But until that is done, my humble submission to my more learned engineer friends is to rethink, join us in this re-evaluation committee, so that the question is, there is no point in my Worldly Tower having replaced its national single channel by 9 channels that are available. Question is, where are the antennas? Where are the antennas? If you don't have an antenna for 1 channel, you don't have an antenna for 9 channels. So the next part is we concentrate on indoor antennas and their propagation, for which the commercial and citizen support wing has to work 48 hours a day. Our calculations are that with a little effort we can bring an antenna for as little as 100 rupees inside the antenna. Next question. How do you dock it into a set-top box? How do you plug it into a cable connection? Gentlemen, if I had the answer, I'd be there. It is for you to come up with the answer of very complicated problems like how to dock in two lead wires into the same system and alternate them. This is not rocket science. So let's get clear on that. Indoor antenna is our highest priority, and until we have been able to put 60 rupees, 100 rupees indoor antenna by thousands, push them all through and through the private sector as well. Because if I have 9 channels to offer, Star itself would be one to grab it. It's a free-to-air channel. There are all these companies that are coming on free-to-air. They would join in the effort. So we would be actually going in for utilization of national wealth with some amount of commerce put in. This is my submission. Now for 1.5 years, finally the board of Prasar Bharati has taken its call, and I'm sure the ministry, when we explain in the proper context, would be sympathizing, would be supporting. The next question is, why a public service broadcast? I don't want to get into that, but my heart broke when I saw northeastern boys being pushed into railway carriages on this light on a provocation made maliciously by one social media news. It means that there are hundreds and thousands of people from Northeast in South India, or South Indians, or whichever state they come from, in the Northeast, in Bengal, in Bihar. And one thing they want to hear is their own language. We are the only ones who have 415, I've stopped counting how many radio stations, you guys go on increasing it. 415 or 16 radio stations, out of which ethnic language service, we are the only providers. We have the capacity to link it up on our DTH. The problem is, when a Mizo boy or a is working in Thiruvananthapuram, or a Ladakhi boy is working in Bangalore, they keep writing to me hundreds of mails. How do you do it? It's very simple. Detach the radio service, delink the radio service from the TV service of a DTH. Our R&D section has already worked out an alternative for 500 rupees delinking. The question is, we have to complete the last mile. We are a public service broadcaster. If every language speaker in India is capable of tuning in the morning to hear his own language in any part of India, and that is not impossible. We have reached the semi-final, we have reached the penalty box. It's only a question of your help. I am addressing a wider audience today with the hope that some of them will raise their hands and help our R&D boys reach this last mile, whereby the radio services, let us say from Mizoram, which could be put up on my DTH tomorrow morning if I want to, there's so much space, can be downloaded and heard parallelly to the TV in Bangalore. The person concerned will be putting it on 24 hours a day, because that's the only time he's hearing the language. Having said that, on our emphasis of the board has been now been to put up this re-evaluation committee before we take the next step, to be emphasizing on medium wave rather than, emphasizing on FM rather than medium wave and DRM, to be emphasizing on antennas. Indoor antennas should be $1 at the most. Indoor antennas, and link them in so that the popularity of terrestrial transmission is reintroduced once again, after which digital terrestrial comes into play, not before that. We don't have a game plan. We can't have a game plan unless there are receivers. And finally, DTH. 97 is our target by March, maximum April. The supplier is saying that he will be doing it not before August. We'll attend to these issues. If we can have 97 channels by April, it is a very big breakthrough. And the type of radio additional radio services that I'm talking about and putting on DTH will make a world of a change. My appeal to you, gentlemen and ladies, is to kindly go over these pleas, these submissions, these desires, to see how we can work together hand in hand. It does not matter which vendor, which manufacturer has what equipment. We are open, we are Catholic in these matters, we are open to every technology as long as it helps the cause of public service broadcasting in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very kind words, for your very encouraging message, preparing us for challenges, meeting them head-on with the will of a winner. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, a perfect example of humility in thoughts, action and deeds, a heart filled with joy, happiness and cheers, a strong mind with no fears, Shri Bimal Julka. Shri Bimal Julka joined the Indian Administrative Service in the year 1979. Prior to this post, he was a Special Secretary and Finance Advisor in the Ministry of External Affairs. Shri Bimal Julka has undertaken many crucial and important tasks, the foremost being the leading of the Indian delegation of Eurasian Group on Anti-Money Laundering and Combating the Financing of Terrorism, its plenary meet in Moscow, leading the government in its fight against fake currency note, to strengthening diplomatic ties with a number of projects of bilateral cooperation. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, we proudly welcome Shri Bimal Julka.
Honorable Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Shri Manish Tiwari ji, respected CEO Prasar Bharati, Shri Johar Sarkar ji, Chairman and CEO Kaimeta Corporation, Mr. Vern Fotheringam, if I pronounced it correctly, Mr. A.K. Dixit, President BES, and Mr. P.K. Singh, Honorary Secretary BES, my colleagues from the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, and members from the media. At the outset, I would like to convey our heartiest greetings on this auspicious day. I would like to thank Broadcasting Engineering Society for giving us this opportunity to talk to all of you on this important occasion and this important subject. It gives me immense pleasure to be a part of this conference, a part of this broadcasting fraternity in the media and entertainment industry, which includes policymakers, regulators, content creators, advertisers, service providers, equipment manufacturers, system integrators, suppliers, and all other stakeholders associated with the broadcasting ecosystem. We are all aware, ladies and gentlemen, that the India's media and entertainment industry is growing at a phenomenal pace. It registered a growth of 12.6% in 2011. And according to the various reports that are getting published by the leading consultants, the television industry is expected to grow at roughly about 17 to 18% by 2017. India, we are aware, is a vast country. It has immense challenges and opportunities as far as media and entertainment industry is concerned. Today, the industry is armed with digital technology, state-of-art mobile devices, penetration of broadband and digital cinema, and a government that fully backs the sector. BES, as we all know, has always played a very vital role in imparting knowledge among broadcasters and served as a valuable forum for participants to address and anticipate the upcoming trends and demands of the industry by organizing various events on current issues. The delegates of the 20th conference will have ample opportunity to witness the latest technologies and systems and also to interact with these experts in the fields from world over. The theme of the conference is very appropriate. In the present scenario of convergence of technology for full utilization of the valuable spectrum, we feel that spectrum is a very valuable natural resource. We need to ensure that it is used optimally and in a judicious fashion. Changes in the delivery of media have created an increasingly challenging multi-platform environment during the last decade with exciting new opportunities. Broadcasting is one sector where technologies are changing so fast that even the policymakers have to be alert and vigilant to keep pace with the newly evolving technologies. As I stand before you today, somewhere in India and in the world, something new is happening in the media and entertainment sector. Changes happening in the broadcasting and communication technologies have resulted in removal of barriers in the field of communication. While digitization is bringing a sea change in the broadcasting scenario, Internet, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, mobile, blogs, etc. are revolutionizing the social media. Regional media is also seeing a huge growth. Globalism and localism is happening at the same time. This is throwing new exciting opportunities and challenges before us. The broadcasting sector has seen some significant changes in television distribution, advertising, content. The DTH has continued to play a very pivotal role in the growth of television industry. In addition to Doordarshan free dish service, there are 6 private DTH operators in the country, and as per available data, the DTH has progressed rapidly in India, taking the total number of DTH households to 52 million in 2013. Innovations in the technology, in set-top boxes and compression technologies have enabled the viewers to record, pause and rewind the live television content, video on demand services, high definition quality channels and even access of television content on move from smartphones. The number of permitted TV channels in India has increased many-fold over the years. In the last 2 to 3 years itself, there has been an addition of roughly about 400 channels. We have so far granted permissions to about 800 TV channels and applications are being received every day. Yesterday only I had a look at the data which is available in the ministry and observed that there are almost about 200 applications which are pending for seeking permissions to enter into the sector. DTH is providing choice from about 400 channels, but in analog domain. Cable subscribers had access to about 70 to 80 channels only. Technical quality of the channels was also not good. There were complaints of underreporting of subscribers and concealment of taxes. The law was therefore changed in 2011, making it mandatory to offer television signals through a digital set-top box. Target of digitization is to be achieved in a phased manner by December 2014, and we are working sincerely towards that end. About 140 million set-top boxes are required to achieve total digitization. As you are aware that the first 2 phases of cable TV digitization have been successfully completed in 42 cities. Over 30 million set-top boxes have already been installed. This was a mammoth task which was completed by the ministry in a record time. This perhaps was the fastest and smoothest digitization exercise in the world. Government has made it mandatory for the DTH and digital cable service operators to make available all 24 Doordarshan TV channels to all subscribers. About 110 million set-top boxes are required to be installed in the remaining 2 phases. Indian industry has sufficient installed capacity to meet this demand. This is an excellent opportunity for the MSME sector as also for the employment generation, which our CEO was also referring to. Digitization would usher in a new era in broadcasting, and it would change the way the television is being watched in India. It would certainly put India in the league of advanced countries which are already harvesting the benefits of digitization. Digital cable TV would bring a host of benefits to all the stakeholders. The biggest gain of digitization is going to be transparency in the broadcasting sector, which will increase investments including FDI, encourage cleaner and innovative business. We do appreciate that there are problems in undertaking the exercise of digitization. There are issues concerning the broadcasters and MSOs. There are issues concerning the MSOs and local cable operators. We are looking at all such matters, and I am sure an amicable solution would be arrived at very shortly. Government has already approved schemes for the digitization of terrestrial TV services being provided by Doordarshan and radio services by All India Radio. Digitization of these services would offer choice to viewers and listeners from multiple services and also access to value-added services. Television rating points has been one of the most contentious issues which has been cropping up from time to time. There has been discussions by our regulator with all the stakeholders in this regard. To tackle this issue, you may be aware that the Union Cabinet has recently approved the proposal initiated by the Ministry of Information Broadcasting by our Honorable Minister, Mr. Manish Tiwari, for bringing out a comprehensive regulatory framework in the form of guidelines for television rating agencies in India. These guidelines cover detailed procedures for registration of rating agencies, eligibility norms, terms and conditions of registration, cross-holdings, patterns, methodology for audience measurement, complaint redressal mechanism, sales and use of ratings, audience disclosures, reporting requirements, and action on non-compliance of guidelines. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I would fail in my duty if I don't bring in the aspect of community radio broadcast services in the country. It's an extraordinary and invisible medium to give voice to the voiceless. It provides an opportunity to the community to speak about issues concerning their lives. World over, community radios have played very critical role in creating awareness and contributing to the development of people. CRS has also helped communities during calamities and natural disasters like tsunami, floods, earthquakes, etc. There is a huge potential for establishing community radio stations within the vast landscape of our country with numerous languages, numerous dialects. So far, almost about 250 CRS centers have already been established, have been activated, and there are more in the pipeline in this regard. Ministry also has plans for 100 crores to provide incentives to the community radio stations to strengthen people's voice. Time and again, we do get queries from various people about the expansion of FM radio sector. You are aware that out of 266 licenses granted by the ministry, 243 private FM stations are already operational. We are in the process of initiating significant steps toward e-auction of 849 FM radio stations in the country to cover 294 cities with population of 1 lakh and above. This, I am sure, would open up an exciting medium of entertainment for people in smaller urban and rural areas in the country. As far as Prasar Bharati is concerned, our CEO has given a very comprehensive overview of the issues and the problems that encompass the Prasar Bharati domain. I can assure you that as far as ministry is concerned, we'll be most supportive to the expansion of Prasar Bharati in whatever way it can, and whatever constructive suggestions that come from the Prasar Bharati board will be definitely looked at much more constructively and purposefully. From the schedule of the conference, I observe that all these issues are going to be deliberated by the technical experts at length. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not a technical expert. I am heading an organization which is working for our viewers and listeners, and I feel that is the audience that we are looking at. As long as you provide user-friendly technologies, we'll be most delighted to capture whatever the essence of those technologies is. A number of countries are participating in this conference. There are technical experts who will be deliberating on a variety of issues. I am sure it will provide a great opportunity to all of us to be abreast with the latest developments in the field of broadcasting. We can discuss, we can deliberate, we can suggest. After all, we are argumentative Indians. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very gracious words, for bringing forth the revolutionary changes in broadcast, guiding us to tap these crucial opportunities to make all the difference and highlighting the significance of community radio. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, during the BES conference, there shall be tutorials later today, tomorrow and day after, with 4 sessions each. Specialists from ministries, regulators, NDMA, Prasar Bharati, ABU, broadcasters, content creators, DTH operators, MSO equipment manufacturers, system integrators, suppliers, advertisers, broadcast strategists from India and around the world are going to be holding discussions on the latest technologies, sharing their experiences and views with all of us. Shri Yogendra Pal, BES Council member, is the chairman of this conference. And this conference shall be having more than 70 speakers. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, for the benefit of our delegates, BES has brought out a compilation of the conference proceedings containing papers to be presented during the course of this conference. I would request Shri Bimal Julka for the release of the conference proceedings. Oh, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, there's one more. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the prestigious and much looked forward to the exhibition in the adjacent hall is spread over an area of about 5,000 square meter. There are more than 80 exhibitors, 70 from India and 10 from the other nations. Each exhibitor is displaying the products of about 4 to 5 companies in all. There are 350 companies exhibiting their products. Mr. A.B. Swaminathan is the council member of BES, is the coordinator of this exhibition. And we request Shri Bimal Julka for the release of the exhibition directory. The exhibition directory contains information about all the participating exhibitors and their products. And that is a glimpse of the exhibition directory. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the Broadcast Engineering Society of India has instituted awards for the promotion and recognition of talents in broadcast fraternity. We start with the BES Awards for this year, that is 2014, for outstanding contributions in the field of broadcast engineering. We would request our Honourable Chief Guest, Shri Manish Tiwari ji, to kindly do the honours. Our first award is the Mukul N. Trivedi Award. The award is given for the best technical innovation in the field of engineering, and this award this year is shared by Shri S. Guru Manikam and Shri R. Arul, AES, from Doordarshan Kendra, Chennai, for the in-house development of broadcast video server based on Casper CG server software. I would request Shri S. Guru Manikam to kindly come and receive the award on behalf of their team. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Shri S. Guru Manikam. Our next award, Dr. Vasanul Hazarimal Mirani Award, and this award is given for the best technical innovative work in the field of digital technology related to broadcasting. This award goes to Mr. Sudhish Kumar Saraswat, Senior Engineering Assistant, All India Radio, Jaipur, for the development of low-cost live audio streaming over Internet. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Shri Sudhir Kumar Saraswat. Our third award in this category is the Padmavati Ganeshan Award. For outstanding work in broadcasting, the award is being given for in-house development of TV scroller and character generator, developed by the team consisting of Mr. Praveen V. Jadhav, Ms. Bela M. Devagiri, Ms. Suhas S. Dandavate, Mr. K.D. Prasad, Mr. Vivek Mule, and Mr. Prabhakar Vashniya. And Mr. Praveen Jadhav is here to receive this award on behalf of the entire team. Please put your hands together for Mr. Praveen Jadhav. Our next category is the BES Lifetime Achievement Award for contribution towards the Broadcast Engineering Society, as well as significant contribution in the field of broadcast, dedicating their life in the pursuit of putting India in the league of countries where broadcasting has already achieved many milestones. The first of the two BES Lifetime Achievement Awards 2014 goes to Sri N.S. Ganeshan. Sri N.S. Ganeshan hails from Nadu Kaveri in Tamil Nadu. After completing his engineering, served with the All India Radio and Doordarshan for more than 36 years, playing a pivotal role in the planning of MF network and TV network. He has, to his credit, setting up of new chapters at Trivandrum and Thanjavur. BES permanent setup at Delhi headquarters, Chennai and Thanjavur, liaising with NAM, IBS, IBC Singapore, cable TV and Korean broadcast, taking BES to astronomical heights in terms of seminars, training and workshop. Heartiest congratulations to Sri N.S. Ganeshan. Our next Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Sri H.L. Chopra posthumously. Late Sri H.L. Chopra, born in Gilgit, completed his graduation from Lahore, a course in radio engineering. He then started his career with AIR in the year 1944. He worked in various departments, retired as Deputy Engineer from All India Radio. After retirement also, he was actively involved with the various government and public sector organizations. He was the forefront of the core group of engineers who took up the challenge in setting up the Broadcast Engineering Society and served its infant stage as a council member. He passed away on 26 May 2000. He would be remembered for his ever-optimistic and positive attitude in life. Ladies and gentlemen, to receive the award, we have with us Mr. V.K. Mehra. Please put your hands together in the memory of late Sri H.L. Chopra. Thank you so much, sir. Well, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for doing the honors. I would request you to kindly take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, as they say, walk the path where few dare to go, exemplify the courage and never let it go. With acts of conviction, leave trails for others to follow, soar high and go beyond the mighty sky. His many inspiring qualities, symbolizing the courage to lead, spirit of passion to pursue, and a will to achieve, serving the nation as Union Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, Independent Charge, Government of India, has reached such a feat with sheer hard work, perseverance, overcoming the challenges of life, rising from the grassroots and leading the way as a true son of the soil, a source of immense inspiration. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shri Manish Tiwari, a moment we all have been very anxiously waiting for to hear his precious voice.
Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Shri Bimal Julka, the extremely distinguished Shri Jawahar Sarkar, Chief Executive Officer of Prasar Bharati, our honored guest, Mr. Vern Fotheringam, if I get the pronunciation of the name right, who was our keynote speaker, Mr. A.K. Dikshit, Mr. P.K. Singh, my senior colleagues, Mr. Jiten Shankar Mathur, Supriya Sahu, member personnel in the board of Prasar Bharati, Brigadier Hussain, member finance, Mr. Pandit, the Director General of the All India Radio, Mr. Venkateshwalu, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to commence by congratulating the Broadcast Engineering Society of India for putting together this magnificent expo and a very stimulating conference to follow. I want to laud your efforts for getting experts from across the globe to showcase their technologies year after year ever since it was established in 1987. Conferences such as these not only help promote vanguard solutions and innovative technologies, but also ensure a confluence of Indian and global ideas in this sector. When I came to this conference last year, I had but barely taken over as the Minister of Information and Broadcasting. And to be very candid and honest, the last 14 months has been a learning curve, steep on most occasions, but pleasurable nonetheless. Unlike a large number of very distinguished technical people, both on the dais and in the audience, I must confess that I am fairly technologically challenged, so therefore my understanding of the finer nuances of technology are rather limited. But as someone who was a lawyer in my previous avatar, I do understand that it is extremely imperative and important that if any sector has to grow and flourish, it must have a stable and a predictable regulatory regime. And the one thing which I was completely struck by was the fact that in the broadcasting space, ever since we liberalized in the early 90s, I think 1991 or 1992, if I remember correctly, broadcasting has perhaps been that unique sector where the march of technology has succeeded and outpaced regulation, rather than regulation laying the framework in which technology and the liberalization of the sector should really have taken place. And as the Honorable Secretary was very correctly mentioning, that over the past 2.5 decades, if my memory serves me correctly, we have issued in the television space about 800 odd licenses. And with all due respects to the plurality of the Indian broadcasting space, it is my very humble personal opinion that perhaps this has been one of the corrosive legacies of liberalization. And the reason I say that with a sense of responsibility is because if you juxtapose the liberalization of the broadcasting sector with the liberalization of the telecom sector, and I spent quite a few years in the telecom courts over a period of time, you would find that even today in a telecom circle which roughly corresponds to a state, you have about 6 or 7 players, at best 8 players. If you were to sort of extrapolate that to the broadcasting paradigm, you have 800 odd players, out of which 395 odd are in the news space. And if you go by the conventional figures which are available, news and current affairs occupies about 7% of the entire broadcasting universe. So the fact remains that you have about 800 odd news channels who are competing for a market share in an environment which is completely advertising driven rather than subscriber driven or subscriber revenue driven. And on one hand, while we can celebrate the plurality and the diversity of the market, on the other hand, I think we also must be cognizant of the fact that market fragmentation at this level does breed its own aberrations and bring in its own angularities, which at times has a very deleterious impact on the level and on the gravitas of the discourse which all of us imbibe and assimilate on a regular basis. So therefore, the couple of things that we were able to do in the past 14 months with the help of my extremely eminent and venerable colleagues was try and put in place a regulatory framework which would then make the entire environment more stable and predictable. We set up an interministerial committee in order to consider all the recommendations which came in from the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India on references which were made by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. And we have been able to take a view with regard to not allowing government entities, political entities in the broadcasting space, whereby effectively prescribing that Prasar Bharati would continue to remain the only public broadcaster which has a component of government funding, and the rest of the space would really be left to private initiative and to private players to sort of come and compete and be able to disseminate content as they feel like. Simultaneously, what we've also been able to do recently is that over a period of time there have been representations from the industry that the entire system of measurement of television audiences, which drives the appropriation and the distribution of advertising revenues, is unfortunately broken and therefore requires to be fixed. It had been a debate which dates back almost to the time when we opened up the broadcasting sector. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India gave recommendations in 2008. We set up a committee under the current Finance Minister of West Bengal, who was then Secretary General of the FICCI, Mr. Amit Mitra, to try and find a solution to this problem. The ministry, under the able guidance of our officers, worked with the industry to try and create the Broadcasting Audience Research Council so that it would be an industry-led effort. But simultaneously, there was a feeling that we need to put in place a transparent mechanism whereby not only the industry, not only the stakeholders, but ordinary people at large would know as to how the popularity of television programs is measured. And I must report that after a great deal of deliberations, we've been successful in getting through on the 9th of January 2014 a decision by the cabinet whereby there would be policy guidelines in place which would ensure that not only would the television rating system become accountable, become auditable, become transparent, but more importantly would become broad-based. Because if you look at the television universe, 15.4 crore television homes, if I remember correctly, if they are going to be benchmarked by a sample size of 10,000 odd people's meters, I do not think that it reflects the reality of television viewership in India. And to a very great extent, I think the credit must also go to Mr. Jawahar Sarkar and his colleagues who, for the lack of a better expression, took the bull by the horns, took it to the Competition Commission. As I speak, I believe, Mr. Sarkar, there is an inquiry which is already in progress. So therefore, I think in the medium term and in the long term, we would have a situation whereby the entire rating mechanism, the audience measurement mechanism, would not only become far more accountable, but far more stringent as we speak. Another very great aberration which is there in the broadcasting space has been the distribution monopolies, which unfortunately are a reality of life in many parts of India. There is a saying that if content is king, in broadcasting, distribution is God. And unfortunately, the gods of distribution, in most cases, also very powerful political players in their respective states, were effectively able to create a stranglehold, whereby television channels which were inimical to their interests, or even Prasar Bharati, the public broadcaster, were repeatedly blacked out, at times because of commercial considerations, at times because of considerations which were far from noble. And therefore, we made a reference to the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India that these monopolies in the distribution space need to be broken down. We are very happy to report that TRAI came back with comprehensive recommendations, and as we speak, an interministerial committee is in the process of considering those recommendations, and I think we will be able to put in place a regime whereby no single entity would have monopoly over broadcasting in any state of India. And concurrently, by regulation, we have ensured that all the 29 odd channels which the public broadcaster disseminates are a must carry in every distribution platform, be it DTH, be it cable, or be it any other platforms. The short point that I was trying to make is that our effort in the ministry over the past 14 months has been to try and put a very stable, a very transparent, a very predictable regulatory regime in place, which would provide a level playing field to all the different entities. And as we speak, talking about distribution, you must have read in the papers today that one or two odd television channels which were reporting content which unfortunately was not to the liking of certain players in the political arena have been ostensibly blacked out. And that is why I think it becomes very important for all stakeholders, especially the public broadcaster and people who have a stake in public broadcasting in India, to see that we have a regime in place whereby no individual, no government is ever able to black out, block or ostracize any content which is being disseminated, but that imposes a corresponding responsibility on the broadcasters also to try and shun sensationalism and to try and put out content which both has a modicum of propriety and also has a certain modicum of sobriety, so that the public discourse in this country remains critical but does not become corrosive. I could not agree with what Mr. Sarkar had said more when he talked about the entire FM paradigm. If there has been one big success in this country over the past 2 decades, it has been the whole telecom revolution. As we speak, there are about 90 crore or 900 million mobile telephones in this country. And not only has this technology proliferated, or not only has mobile telephony proliferated to the last man at the last row, but it has done so at the cheapest call rates anywhere in the world. And therefore, it is extremely imperative for all of us and the public broadcaster to ensure that we leverage this frequency modulation paradigm which is available to us, and ensure that the radio space is broadened, the radio space is made far more expansive, and our transmission is able to reach out to each and every person who has a mobile phone which has the capacity to be able to receive a frequency modulated transmission. I know Mr. Sarkar has been pushing us extremely hard, and to some extent we have come up short in not being able to keep pace with the urgency which Prasar Bharati has been exhibiting in this particular arena. But I would like to assure him and all his colleagues that insofar as the FM paradigm is concerned, whatever support is required from the ministry would be available to Prasar Bharati, so that you can leverage this and become an early mover in ensuring that you have the largest FM-based network in the country. Mr. Julka spoke about community radio. I think that is another area which has enormous potential. In some parts of the country, community radio has taken off. Not only has it become an incubator for local culture, local folk music, but more importantly for disseminating local information. After the unfortunate happenings in Uttarakhand last year in summer, in fact, we have been approached by the Uttarakhand government to see if we can put community radios in place, because when that unfortunate event took place, when the deluge happened, the only source of information which was available to a lot of people who were marooned in the hills and in inaccessible places was the AIR network and what All India Radio was broadcasting in terms of information. So therefore, community radio is also another sunrise area that we are looking at, and we are trying to push it as aggressively as possible. Mr. Sarkar was mentioning to me that perhaps it would be a good idea to allow the armed forces to have community radio stations in each of their cantonments. You know, if at all the armed forces do come forward and they feel that they would require community radios in their cantonments or to cater to their specific needs, we would be more than happy to facilitate that process, because I think it would only add to the diversity and the plurality of content. So to sum up, in the last 2 decades, there has been this exponential march of technology. And one of the greatest arts of survival is to try and keep in step with the changes in technology which have taken place. There are legacy technologies which have played a role in building up the entire broadcasting paradigm in this country, or the broadcasting infrastructure in this country. But everything, does come with a certain stamp. It does come with a certain expiry date. And I think it would be worth the while of the Broadcasting Engineering Society and all of you, very bright minds who've gathered here from not only across India but across the world, to apply yourself as to how and what technologies India would require, the Indian broadcasting paradigm would require, as we look from 2014 to possibly 2034. And I must conclude by saying that one of the most ambitious experiments, or one of the most ambitious initiatives which the Ministry of Information Broadcasting had launched, was the entire digitization exercise. Despite a lot of naysayers, we went through phase 1 and phase 2 of digitization. Of course, it did create a little bit of turbulence, did create tumult, and obviously, certain stakeholders were unsettled. Some of them made a very public exhibition of their unsettlement last time at this expo itself. But to them and to all the other stakeholders, I would like to say that the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is committed to stay the course in digitization. We are evaluating the results of phase 1 and phase 2, but simultaneously and concurrently, we have not put phase 3 and phase 4 on hold. We are going ahead with the preparations, but we only want to do phase 3 and phase 4 of digitization better than what we did in phase 1 and phase 2, drawing from the lessons that we have learned from that experience. Once again, I would like to thank all of you for inviting me here. I have a flight to catch at 1 o'clock, so therefore I would have to leave you, but I would once again like to wish the conference and all the participants and delegates all the best, and I hope that we would have some concrete takeaways in terms of deliberations from the end of this conference. Once again to you, Mr. Dikshit, Mr. Singh, and to all your colleagues, thank you for having us here. Have a good day, happy Makar Sankranti, and happy Eid.
Many thanks to you, sir, for those illuminating words, for being our guiding light in a short span of time, for bringing about a foresight for the future, bringing out all those regulations for a fair broadcast.